Good morning and welcome to First Sip by Draft for Upside. I am Brewery Mark. With me is Chris Esports Emmerich. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Rocking the red light today.
Oh yeah, I see that. Did you have a late night with League of Legends?
No, so drove back in from Florida yesterday. Got in around 10. Had to calm the dog down. She was not used to her new environment and the noises and all the good stuff that goes along with that. Was able to do that by getting her to go to sleep. So we went to bed around 10:30, 11. I woke up around 7. I didn't watch the first game of the League of Legends, caught the rest of them. Had to return a rental car and do some other things, but happy to say I'm up what about $800-900 today. So after a really difficult group stage and play-ins for me in terms of worlds, the semifinals at least were pretty profitable. The quarterfinals and the semifinals I did very well. So I got a couple nice futures bets that I have a possibility of hitting here. Did win the most pick, most banned at 5-1 with Braves. Lost a couple other ones, but still came profitable. So feeling pretty good. Hopefully we can replicate that in NFL today.
Yeah, so interesting week. Lots of great plays, lots of great games to stack. Quarterback ownership's pretty flat. It looks like running back is where everybody's targeting, like a top 5 really heavy. Wide receiver actually looks pretty flat too. You got a couple at the top, but why don't we start out? We'll get into let's start with quarterbacks, and
Yeah, so I mean, my favorite 2 plays are going to be Justin Herbert and then Kyler Murray. I think both of those guys have, good prices, good matchups. They're in situations where they can really smash. Both of them have done so almost in every single game. They've got really good stack targets, and they've got guys on the other side of them in terms of the opposing team that has the ability to kind of push the pace in this game. I don't have a problem with Russell Wilson. It looks like Wilson, Watson, and Murray are going to have similar ownership. I just like Murray a little bit more because he does have that kind of carved-in rushing upside. A lot of other quarterbacks do have that, but not to the same extent that Murray does. Murray's more of a Lamar Jackson type player from last year. I've been saying it all year. He's going to be a league winner. He's that guy. And, I like him as my top play. Herbert, obviously, there's a lot of reasons behind that. If you're looking for somebody that's a little bit less expensive, I think Joe Burrow's in a good situation and at 5.5. Can't go wrong. There are a lot of other playable guys. I mean, all the way down to like Ben at 1.5%, Tannehill, who's just been doing it every single week at 2%, and then guys like Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford that the 2 Matts can maybe have a shootout today.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of fell. I like the 2 Matts as my primary plays. I have a little bit of Russell. I have a little bit of Kyler Murray. Great matchups. I played Josh Allen too against New Jersey, the Jets. The question there is if they get up so high, do they just run the ball at that point?
I think the other thing is that we're kind of seeing Josh Allen come down to earth. I mean, we did have 2 primetime games. They weren't the most, they weren't the easiest of matchups. So we do have to cut him some slack in that sense. But, we saw him get off to a really fast start, had these fantastic games, and all the chat was, hey, this guy has kind of arrived. His game has evolved. And I think that those things are true. I think that he's a good play week to week, but I don't think that he's going to be consistently smashing it. If you go back to last year or any point in his career, he has these little blurbs where he's just absolutely excellent and he can put up these fantasy points in bunches, but then he's going to go through kind of some down times as well. And, part of it has been previously that he didn't have the weapons, and to some extent that's still true now. He's got Stephon Diggs, and that's a huge improvement over anything that he's had, but that running game is suspect, which does help him. But the Josh Allen MVP talks were a bit premature, and there's still some shows out there that are talking about that, and I think it's just laughable.
Yeah, exactly. You did mention it a little bit, but my favorite contrarian play is Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger against Tennessee secondary. only 1.5% owned. So I got to put a couple of lineups in, at least on the passing side where Tennessee seems to be weaker. And so I have a couple of stacks there that with the low ownership, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the concern for me is that Ben has to be ultra efficient. I've talked about it for a couple of weeks now. He's really in that same, stratosphere. I don't know, atmosphere. I don't even know a good word for it. Probably using some words incorrectly here. But he's kind of like Drew Brees in the sense that he's not going to push that ball down the field anymore, despite actually, in his case, having the weapons to do so. He's going to have some more of those under routes. It's going to have to be 10, 15 play drives. And, how is that going to kind of play out? I think it's still an extremely exploitable game against Tennessee. Tennessee has been able to put up points. So Tannehill on the other side is a guy that, can keep pace or be the target as opposed to Roethlisberger. I guess my biggest concern in that game is Pittsburgh getting out into a lead. Lawan being out, that offensive line not being what it was because you're missing your best offensive lineman going against one of the league's best pass rushes. I think it's a really sneaky spot for a guy like James Conner to actually have that. And I don't know if you're done with quarterbacks. I guess that could be our segue into running.
Yeah, let's run right back in the running backs. That's great. And I'm right there with you too. It does feel like a sneaky James Conner type of game, just exactly for those reasons.
Yeah, the concern with James Conner for me is that just the lack of usage in the passing game. And we just have so many running backs. I mean, this week is really going to be. It could be a situation where running back is what makes or breaks you. And this is one of those weeks that we hadn't had yet this year, where we had a lot of these injuries and we had guys propelled into positions and roles in the offense that they didn't necessarily have. And they hadn't been priced up because it didn't happen last week. So, last week we had Madison who had his absolute 1% zero floor game. I think that game was about as likely to happen as him scoring 40 points. But, it happened and you can see how it happened. Just got really taken out of it, didn't have the huge role that he needed to. But so James Conner, has smashed every single game. But at what is he at 6,700? We're almost needing him to get to these numbers that while they have been consistent median numbers, I'm not sure that they're going to hold up over the course of a season. So these in a couple of weeks going to look more like ceiling games for him that we've seen, and that's what we kind of need. But I certainly think with the ownership that he's going to have and the price point and guys that are around him that are just going to be more frequently clicked, if Conner does have a 2-touchdown 100-yard game, you're in a good spot, especially if some of these other guys fail.
Yep. All right, let's take a look at ownership here. I think that's pretty obvious. Kamara is at 49% projected ownership. And then Jamal Williams comes in. So that's everybody thinking that Aaron Jones will be ruled out today. One who I'm 50-50 on. I do have a sprinkling of them. Giovanni Bernard is next. And then I know you are a fan of number 4, Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, so let's talk about a couple of these guys and some of the things that have been talked about. And these are just kind of what goes on in my head in terms of thinking about these plays is that initially you want to say, okay, it's a smash spot. But then, you hear the chirpings like these guys aren't going to play the same roles that the people that they replaced did. But do you need them to? Like, do I expect Giovanni Bernard to come in and play a Joe Mixon role? No, of course not. I don't need him to. Joe Mixon's priced at 6,000-7,000 on a typical week. Gio's only 4,500.
Right.
He's 4,500. You can put him with the all mustache stack. Go with Gardner Minshew. Probably Marvin Jones sometimes has a mustache too because he can't grow any more facial hair. And you've got a beautiful mustache stack. But like. I think both of these guys are players that you can put in. They're going to. Here's the challenge: when you're playing guys at this low of a price point that are going to be this highly owned, play both of them. Don't play just one. Play both of them, and then go heavy on your wide receivers. And you're going to need those ceiling games out of wide receivers, which are easier to achieve. But based off of the ownership, to me, I'm thinking a lot of people are going to play Alvin Kamara and then one of the other of these guys.
Yeah, that does seem to be the pattern. Couple other thoughts. What do you think of Kenyon Drake? So his owners, he's been talked about a lot. His ownership's only at 8%, but he's only 4.8K. Do you take a chance on him against Seattle?
Yeah, I think you absolutely do. I mean, just it's how much exposure do you feel comfortable with there? The guy is getting tremendous red zone work. He does get a lot of rushes. He's just not involved in the passing game the way that you would want him to. And part of that is just kind of the game flow. If they get behind and they're playing catch up, he's going to be involved in the passing game, probably equal to that of Chase Edmonds, who's a good play too. But I just find that Drake is getting more of that, near the goal line, green zone, high value touches than Chase Edmonds. They're both playable. I mean, it's a guaranteed smash spot. If this was an island game and they didn't include this in the main slate, he would have scored another 2 touchdowns. It's absolutely the way that it is. I was one of the few people that was actually happy that this game got moved into prime time and was going to possibly be something that we didn't actually have to factor in. Partially, even though Kyler was my favorite quarterback play of the week, I was happy to take it out because it's just it just feels so gross playing this game because I feel like everybody's going to play this game, and that's not what the ownership is dictating. So, I mean, I feel better this morning looking at this game, but I don't know, like, is Drake the part of that offense that you want? And I certainly have some shares in some GPPs. I don't know how frequently I'm going to find him in my main lineup because I've got a couple other guys that are around that price point that I think are a little bit more interesting than Mr. Drake.
All right, going further down here. So there's a big drop off in the running back ownership. So let's look at some of these possibly contrarian plays. Derrick Henry, looks like everybody's fading him against Pittsburgh's defense. Antonio Gibson from Washington is only 4% owned and only 5K. I really like that play. We talked about James Conner, and then the other one I'm kind of looking at is David Johnson.
Yeah, you stole that from me. I mean, I love David Johnson today.
Okay.
I said Green Bay's defense last week was, on the surface pretty good, but when you started to look at the actual numbers, they've just been really lucky. They were really, really good at in terms of allowing fantasy points, but they were really bad at DVOA, which takes a look at the actual plays a little bit more, not necessarily the results, but how not necessarily the points from a fantasy perspective, but the actual football results. And against the rush, they're 25th. And now at this point, they are the worst at allowing fantasy points. In terms of David Johnson has had multiple touchdowns that he should have had, but they were just bad passes from Watson, not blaming him. Those are situations that he should have had. He had a couple situations where he ran the ball and just got it to the 1 yard line. So the opportunities are there. The regression for touchdowns are there. I think that this is kind of David Johnson, for me, has kind of this is it, man. Like I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to him another time if he hurts me here, but he's appropriately priced. He's in a great matchup. He's in a matchup where I think the more of the attention is going to go to the other running back. You've got Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and a couple other guys that are just going to I like him. I like him in this position. I like it if they get inside the 5 yard line. Like you're not throwing the slant or a post pattern to Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. It's just not what it is. So I think David Johnson's a fantastic play here, as is Antonio Gibson. And even the guy that's underneath them in Todd Gurley, he is one of the guys, in my opinion, that is not talked about at all. And I get it. His price gets up there. So it's a little bit harder to digest, but like, can you see Todd Gurley scoring 2 touchdowns against the Lions? Absolutely. Yep. And if we think that this Lions-Atlanta game is a shootout, which I think it's going to be, I think they're going to put up points. Atlanta has allowed points to everybody, and Todd Gurley is just a beautiful leverage play off of Julio, off of Calvin Ridley. You could even go running back in this game with Gurley and Swift. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, my philosophy: play everybody against the Lions.
Yeah, and I didn't like it until I saw a report this morning that they were saying that they were going to increase his touches. Like, what do you believe on that? Like, I want to believe that, while at the same time I don't believe that Le'Veon Bell is going to be splitting carries with Hilaire. That like just doesn't make sense. Have you seen Le'Veon Bell run the ball? Like it's. I mean, he's got patience, but he's not the guy that he was in 2016, and certainly. I like Hilaire, probably not on the main slate, but I do have some shares of him in the, I believe, the early only, especially because it is snowing like crazy in Denver.
Is it really? Yeah. All right. So one last running back play I'm interested in, and we briefly talked before we came on about Tampa's defense. So what do you think of Ronald Jones and a Tampa defense stack?
I think Ronald Jones is an okay play, but you're really looking for a touchdown out of him. You need it. I mean, Leonard Fournette's going to come back. We don't know what that role is going to look like between the two of them. I think he's played well enough that he's probably still the primary back. That's what they've indicated to us on all accords, but he's one fumble away, one mistake that makes Tom Brady mad from Fournette coming in and taking that whole workload. And then even just beyond that, I feel like they're going to rotate the guys a little bit more. That gives Fournette some opportunities to be the goal line back, to take those touchdowns. And look, 100 yards from Ronald Jones just isn't going to do it for you. It's not. Especially like when you're looking at these running backs today, you really need to look at the ceilings. You need to look, can they get 4? Can they get 5X? Because it is so easy for a Jamal Williams or a Giovanni Bernard, if they find the end zone at least once, to get in the 4 or 5X territory. Giovanni Bernard did take over for Joe Mixon over the course of 2 weeks back in 2018, put up 20 and 25 points, was super chalk those weeks. Why do we think that this is going to be any different? Because there are other running backs? Yeah, sure. Okay, great. Like, does he need to get to 25? Fuck no, he doesn't. He just needs to get to fucking 16. And in that case, you need Ronald Jones to get to 24. Are you confident you can get Ronald Jones to 24? I'm not.
No.
And that's kind of why guys like Ronald Jones, James Robinson, those guys are not interesting to me. Guys like Latavius Murray, if you want to get away from those other guys, are interesting. Or just like your really high-end guys that aren't, Alvin Kamara, who, again, Kamara has had 30 and 40-point outings. Kamara can crush in a very easy game against Carolina, but, Latavius Murray can come in and take 2 touchdowns from him. And then Kamara is not hitting value, and then all of a sudden he's, at 15, 16 points. He's Alexander Madison. Ezekiel Elliott is a guy that I think is also kind of interesting at that high-end price. It's a really bad play by all accords, but here's my thought process with Zeke is that, look, Dallas played terribly last week. Zeke dropped the ball twice. They're going to feed him the ball, I think. It's raining here in Washington. It's gloomy. It's no good. I was just in Florida. It was mid-80s. It's beautiful. The sun was shining. And now I'm out here in Washington. It's like 60s. I've got the heat on in my house. I've got sweatpants on. It's raining. I haven't seen the sun. It's not, and I'm okay with that. But look, Zeke might get some dirty work today. And that's a guy at a high price too. So I think we've officially covered almost every running back, and so we can say we counted everybody. But going back to it, my favorite play is David Johnson. I think he was one of yours as well. Kareem Hunt's in a great spot. I don't like Landry. I don't like Beckham. This is the segue into wide receivers, by the way. So Kareem Hunt's the nice run back for that Cincinnati Cleveland game that looks to be a shootout. And so with that, hey, there's a segue.
All right. So into wide receivers, what do we got here? So I found this interesting. Devontae Adams, 22% projected ownership, but Aaron Rodgers was only 8%. Terry McLaurin, we know why he's up there at 20%. Dallas is secondary. And then these are people who I expect: Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, all at the top.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, well, I mean, these are all great plays. Let's talk about the pivots.
There's a lot of good receivers this week.
So Devontae Adams doesn't really have a good pivot, but you do want to put him with Will Fuller or Brandon Cooks, both supposed to be over 10%. Terry McLaurin, I think you can get a little bit away from him at 21%. He's a great price and a great matchup. He's got a terrible quarterback in bad conditions. So that's the only reason that I would temper the expectation on McLaurin. Keenan Allen, great spot, but how do you get away from Keenan Allen? You go to Mike Williams. You go to Hunter Henry. You double stack it that way. I love Keenan Allen. You know, I wrote him up. I've been a big proponent. Keenan Allen sub 7K is a guy for me. DK Metcalf. I like DK Metcalf more than Tyler Lockett. If they're going to be equal, like I'd rather have Metcalf at that price point. Traquan Smith can kick rocks. Sorry, I don't care. 4K, yeah, whatever. Probably going to get some work. I'm probably wrong there, but
yeah, 4K.
Yeah, well, do you need it? Like, do you need the 4K? I mean, I guess that's the game theory that we'll get into after we have the positional breakdowns. But Julio is supposed to be more owned than Calvin Ridley. I think that's a mistake, and that's some recency bias. Christian Kirk is a guy that I like, and then the other guy that you can really get some strong leverage as you get into these. Robbie Anderson, scheduled to be about around 9 to 10% versus DJ Moore, who's really he's worked his way into being a wide receiver 1A or fell out, worked his way back. But at 5'6", I mean, it's a great price for him. Love T. Higgins. I mean, I think you can make an all danger hater lineup with Claypool, T. Higgins. I'm not even sure who else you would put in there, but like those two guys have, been so off brand for danger that I think you could just troll them with
that. Yeah, for me, I'm playing a lot of Calvin Ridley against the Lions. I have a little bit of Julio in there just because it's $7,000 Julio. The price is going to be down there. I'm going to play him. I love Stephon Diggs against the Jets.
Julio's also 31 years old, dude. Like, Julio's he's not the right side of 30.
Oh, no, I understand. We talked about Buffalo a little bit. I have a little bit of Diggs. I like them a lot, but I'm worried that Buffalo could get out to a big lead and they start running the ball. What do you think of Robbie Anderson? Because I kind of like Teddy this week, and I don't want to say it's a revenge game, but he's going back to New Orleans.
Look, I like Robbie. I like DJ Moore. The talk out there would be like, hey, well, I don't even actually know if this is talk. I'm making this up in my head. But Marshawn Lattimore. But don't be afraid of Marshawn Lattimore. Guy's allowed he's allowed a perfect quarterback rating so far this year.
Yeah.
So he's allowing passes. He's allowing touchdowns. He hasn't been good. At some point, you expect them to kind of turn the corner. If you think about the New Orleans defense as a whole, the last 4 or 5 years, dating back to when they were really bad, they made this turn around the time that they drafted Lattimore. But they were always bad the first couple of weeks of the season, and then they kind of gelled together. I don't think that this is one of those seasons. So I like Robbie Anderson, and I like DJ Moore. I don't think that this is a game where you're game stacking the game as a whole, but if you're playing Kamara and you want Kamara to get more, run as opposed to Latavius, I think that you can put somebody on the other side of him, and I think Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore fit that bill. So one of the two of those guys, or Mike Davis, is a guy that you probably want to put in your lineup just because of the positional equity. I think Mike Davis is probably going to go underlooked. I mean, going back. So, all of these guys are priced pretty similar. I like all of them. I think you can play any one of them. Here's a guy, Claypool. We talked about that. You like Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep.
Deontay Johnson. I like Deontay Johnson a little bit more as a solo play. I don't think you need to stack him with Ben, but you can play him with the Pittsburgh defense. I'm not sure that the Pittsburgh defense well, the special teams. I like their defense. I don't think Deontay Johnson returns punts and kicks as much. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here in my mind. But Johnson was the undisputed number one wide receiver when he was healthy, and he just hasn't been healthy. Like, do we think that that's going to change? Obviously, based off of ownership and the way people feel about Claypool versus Deontay Johnson, but I think you can get a tremendous amount of leverage by having Johnson with the Pittsburgh defense, who I've already talked about that I like. A lot of these guys lower than that, I don't think you really need to go to. There are some interesting players, Valdez Scantling, Landry, Juju to some extent, because he's just not going to be owned, and I think he's going to have one or two pop-off games.
Yeah, the question is when? When does he have that pop-off game? Because he's looking horrible.
I mean, I don't even think that he's looking from a fantasy standpoint. Sure,
yeah,
horrible. But I've even seen people talk about how Juju's just not. He's not there for football. He's more into a lot of other aspects, and good for him, man. Like, I think he'll probably be one of the more successful wide receivers out of our current set of wide receivers in the game right now. After football, hey, the guy's got other interests, and he's leveraging all of it, and he's transcending it. I can't hate him or fault him for that, but he's getting the targets. Like,
yeah,
they're just not good targets because Ben can't throw the ball.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of Deontay Johnson in my flex. I mean, 4K at 3% ownership. I love that as an extra receiver in my lineups.
I'm gonna let you. Let's talk about the other guy that's in this game. There are two guys. Man, they're all of the receivers under 5% are just absolutely in great spots. Mike Williams, love him with him. DJ Chark as the run back in that game. Like, are we just forgetting that this guy can just absolutely take over a game in a fantasy game, and not an actual game, but like a fantasy game, he can take it over. And then you've got AJ Brown too. Like, all three of these guys are fantastic. They're cheap, and then you could go with a really contrarian running back setup with Kamara, who is fine play. Like, I was dogging him earlier, but you could go Kamara and Zeke. Like, I've talked about how that has not been what is winning GPPs this year, right? But it feels like everybody is going to be going to these cheaper running backs. And if you're going to the cheaper running backs, you're filling out the salary somewhere else. And if you're filling out the salary somewhere else, it's going to be with Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, and DK Metcalf. Like, so, you can go cheap somewhere else. And if you go cheap in the wide receivers, your lineup's going to look different than the groupthink mentality that most people have.
Yep, I completely agree. Looking here, I didn't bring it up, but I will have a lot of Kenny Galladay. I don't see how he doesn't score a touchdown against Atlanta. So,
yeah, sub 10%. I mean, this is a guy that was supposed to be super chalky last week, and I don't remember what his ownership actually was. There's not really a way for me to look that up quickly. But, he's going to be not thought of as much because of he didn't score last week. There are other great plays. I'm surprised that my Gabe Davis play is around 10% as well. Yeah. And then Brashard Perriman, Sam Darnold's supposed to be back. Jamison Crowder's out. So, yeah, sure.
What do we got here? Just showing some comments.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because the days that I pay attention to the comments, nobody says anything. And then the days that I'm just like off on another tangent, they're there. So here, let's talk about these. Bernard depends on.
I can pop them out.
It depends on Jones's status.
Oh, because Jamal Williams, he's saying, is a better play than Giovanni.
I mean, is that flip? Like, why would Why would Jones's status have anything to do with?
You're saying if Aaron Jones is out, then Jamal Williams is a better play than
Oh,
Giovanni.
yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, but we're assuming that Aaron Jones is out. That's my assumption. That's my belief. That's what I'm banking on. Put Williams in a flex spot. That would be so. Then you're playing three running backs. If you're afraid of that, I'm not. But if you're afraid of that, you can put somebody in that 4K spot. Who are some of the guys that you can play in the 4K spot that you could replace them with? I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Then, Mark, one other comment from him.
I would pay up for Buffalo's D. Absolutely. That's not the comment that you pulled up, though.
Yeah. I was going to wait on the defensive one until we got there.
Yeah. Kamara and Adam are the biggest beneficiaries. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what we just said when we talked about how we could build lineups that were different. It's going cheap wide receivers.
So let's run into our last two categories here. So tight ends, which is always this year has just been a crapshoot, other than the top couple guys. Where are you landing this week? You going super cheap again? Are you trying to fit in a Kelsey or a Kittle?
So I don't even remember who I wrote up because I didn't write the blurbs about him. I was just short on time and not at home. But so I think Jared Cook's a really interesting leverage play over Kamara, but probably not where I'm going. Hunter Henry is my favorite play. David Njoku is kind of interesting too, as well as Jonnu Smith. All of these top end guys, Hawkinson, Waller, you can make cases for. If you're looking for somebody on the cheaper end of things, it's just look, it's me and you. Just me and you and our viewers. Let's be honest. It's a Logan Thomas week, baby. Let's go.
I thought you were gonna go Herndon.
Oh, never, ever again.
Buffalo's the worst against tight ends.
Doesn't matter. It's Logan Thomas, baby.
Logan Thomas.
It's Logan Thomas. Like we thought we could quit him. He scores a touchdown last week and he's in a rainy, muddy game. It's going to be Logan Thomas, baby.
Yeah, I do have Logan Thomas in a lot of lineups.
There we go. Logan Thomas it is, guys. Let's do it.
Oh. Got another comment here?
Yeah, no, look, I like Waller too. So if you think Vegas is going to be successful, I don't. But Waller is the guy that they're going to be successful through. He's going to get a ton of targets. Vegas can lose and lose badly, and Waller can still be successful. He's another beneficiary though of those lower price positions all over the place that you can pay up $6,000. Yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah, I think Tampa's going to pretty much destroy Vegas. I just don't see that as even an interesting game. But like you said, Waller is the play on Vegas's side. All right, defense. As we like to do with defenses, do you just have that one that you think's going to hit this week?
No, I mean, so for defenses, it's hard for me. It's really something that I actually have to start building lineups to start picking defenses. And that's just one of those things that I don't build lineups. I haven't built any of my main lineups yet. I have ideas. I've thought about it. I'm probably going to play some League of Legends after we get off, and then I'll build my lineups in the last 20 minutes. That's usually my style, my way of going about it. I want to leave myself a little bit of time, but I'll have some guys put in there. But defense, yeah, look, I get how some people are going to the football team. I get the Browns play. I get the Chargers play. I'm sure you like the Chargers play because you like to target Minshew, but I just think this is one of those weeks that you don't get too cute. You have enough value elsewhere that you can play the Buffalo. The Bills, I think Pittsburgh's a sneaky one, again, because of the offensive line issues. And then after Tennessee loses this game, if they look really bad, go smash Ryan Tannehill for MVP because he's at plus 7,000 right now. Probably goes up from there. Certainly a guy that's more than capable. I think he's got like 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, 31-6 since he came in as the starter. Like, probably not going to win it. It's going to be Russ, but Russ has give negative money right now to MVP, which is crazy. But yeah, so Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and then Tampa Bay. Those are the 3 defenses that I'm most interested in.
Yeah, and like you said, it comes down to building. And when I was building, I did find myself mostly on the Washington football team. It's just the right price against Dallas, who looks kind of suspect right now. It's going to be super chalky, I know, but they should at least make value, and it allows me to pay up at other positions. Tampa is my next favorite. I just really think they're going to dominate Vegas today. They're going to be breaking through that line, and Carr is going to be running for his life, and he does not do good under pressure. Otherwise, yeah, my builds, I'm just not able to pay up much for Buffalo. I mean, I have a few in where I specifically went for like a Singletary Buffalo type of situation. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, so then, we got the positions here. Now we got to kind of talk about like where you stack and like when it comes down to, is there a couple games that are just going to have a tremendous amount of ownership? Danger is probably 100% stacking Cleveland, or not Cleveland. It's a fucking Cardinal. I don't know why I said Cleveland. The Cardinals and the Seahawks first, because he likes birds. We don't talk about that a lot, but he likes birds. He wishes he could fly. And then on top of that, it's the late night hammer. I mean, this is an 8:00 game. We haven't had this in a couple of years. So it's an interesting spot, but it's a great game. This should be competitive. 2 fantastic quarterbacks that are quick on their feet and then have good shoulders to throw the arms or throw the ball to. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a game that you can stack, but how do you get different in there? I think Kenyon Drake's different. I think Carson, one of Lou Lander's favorite guys, despite playing absolutely atrociously this year in terms of what he should be and what he's expected. He's squeaked out a couple games. But I think that's kind of where you can go different in that game is the running backs. We talked about Tennessee and Pittsburgh. I think that game could be a shootout too. And I think you can be a little different in the sense that you go with like a Juju, Deontay, AJ Brown type stack. Yeah. Cleveland, Cincinnati, I think that it's very clearly you go with Kareem Hunt and then, T. Higgins for sure. But do you see any other games here that you think are just jumping out other than, you got Detroit, Atlanta, Green Bay, Houston, and then I think Jacksonville, the Chargers. Those are the other games that stand out as game stackable games for GPP winnings. And that's what has won GPPs.
Yeah, and that's you mentioned too that I'm looking at Detroit, Atlanta. They always tend to run up the score on each other. And honestly, I'm a Detroit fan, so I'm going to target that game a little bit more than the average person. But I really like Green Bay, Houston, because I'm not hearing a lot of talk about it. Aaron Rodgers is a fairly low-owned quarterback on this slate, and I'm not hearing a lot about this game in game stacks. So I think it's a way that we can leverage in large GPPs by stacking that game, especially with Green Bay.
But, I mean, while you're not hearing about it, I mean, let's talk about the ownerships there. Jamal Williams is slated at 32%. You've got David Johnson, who's low-owned, but those wide receivers, Devontae is the highest-owned wide receiver, and then Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks are both in the top 10. So while people...
Well, I'm just not hearing about it in stacks. Those individual players might be highly owned in other places, but as a game stack, I'm not really hearing a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, and then you got Deshaun Watson as the second highest owned quarterback. So I think that those pieces are going to be there. So it's a matter of being different. I think David Johnson and Valdez-Scantling are the 2 pieces that make that different, or maybe even a little bit of Bob Tonyan.
Yeah, I love Tonyan. I do like him. Does she need to go out, or is she looking for something?
Oh, no. The doors to the bedrooms usually closed during stream times, just because the light filters in. It's kind of weird, and she doesn't understand those boundaries yet. So
she just searching.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts on strategy for today? Any last minute plays?
No, I mean, I'm going to go out and say my favorite. I'm going to put my favorite plays. I mean, despite what I had in my article, these are my final thoughts. Kyler Murray, favorite play. Justin Herbert, backup. In terms of running back, my favorite play is going to be David Johnson, backup play, secondary play for running back. I mean, let's go Alvin Kamara. That's fine. Wide receiver. Keenan Allen and Calvin Ridley. Tight end Hunter Henry, and let's go with Logan Thomas. And then defense, I've got Pittsburgh and Tampa. Your turn.
Quarterback, I'm going with the two Matts. I love that game. Running back, I do love Kamara, but he's so high priced and so highly owned. I find myself playing a lot of Antonio Gibson. I really like him in this situation. And I like leveraging. I got to look at the Charger game for Justin Jackson, but he's another one I really like today.
Well, if he's ruled out, then I think Joshua Kelly can just slip in there. I don't. Yeah, I mean, look, hey, Mark said, not you, the other Mark's that's been commenting is afraid of that game going under and going way under. You can be afraid of it. Like my wife's afraid of my dog still, like to some extent, and that's just unjustified. I mean, like, look at what Jacksonville's allowed every single week so far this year. Like they've given up, I think, 30 points every single week. Like it's not going to go. The game can go under, but the Chargers are going to score.
All right, Mark just put up a nice, funny comment. There you go.
Like there are a couple guys we die with. Me and Mark we die with Logan Thomas.
Yeah. Can't stop him. He's that player this year. Just to finish my thoughts, my favorite wide receivers here, DK Metcalf and Calvin Ridley. Tight end Logan Thomas. I love him. Can't stop him. And defense, I'm going to go with the Washington football team like everybody else. Is just a great price and a great spot.
Hey, Mark in the comments, don't ever be worried about a blowout. Gardner Minshew's on patrol, my friend. I mean, can we pull up the? You know what? We probably can. Hang on. Let's see if we can pull this up.
You gonna bring up the Minshew?
I'm gonna try and do this screen share. Pull up the Minshew albums. I don't even know where it is on here. Let's see. Hang on. Here it is. I've got too many pictures of Korean kids everywhere. Here we go. Share screen. We are going to share. Chrome tab. That's what it is. Figuring this out. Boom. There it is. Share it. That's not even the one that you were thinking of. It's just the one that popped up right there.
Yeah, there's that one and the one in the car.
So hey, like, look, you can never be afraid when Gardner Minshew is on the field. All right, yeah. I mean, that's what I got.
All right, great show once again. Thank you very much. Check us out at draftforupside.com, fantasyfootballblueprint.com. You find us on Facebook. We stream every Wednesday night and every Sunday morning, and we do some shows in between. We also put those out as podcasts on any of your favorite podcast networks. Thank you, and good luck today.
See ya.